The world you see with your senses is not the solid and unchanging reality you have been taught to believe in since childhood. It is not the final truth. Rather, it is a stage, a vast theater dressed in scenery, props and characters that only appear to be permanent and independent of you. Every tree you pass, every building you walk by, every person you meet, even the chair on which you now sit, is part of a grand set designed to give the illusion of stability and solidity. But the truth hidden beneath the surface is that all of it is fluid, all of it is projection, all of it is imagination taking visible form. The stage is magnificent, but it is not ultimate reality. It is the outward picture of an inward act. Think for a moment of a play performed in a theater. The actors come on stage, dressed in costume, speaking their lines, moving with intention, and to the untrained eye the audience may lose themselves in the story. They laugh, they cry, they feel joy or sorrow because the play feels real in the moment. Yet when the curtain falls, they know it was only a performance, a creation meant to convey something deeper than the literal action seen on stage. So it is with life. You look at the roles around you and believe they are fixed identities. Yet every person is only an actor clothed in temporary character. Your boss, your friend, your spouse, your neighbor, the stranger in the market, all of them are taking on roles to move the story of your life forward. Their words, their gestures, their decisions may feel like their own, but they are fulfilling a larger script unfolding from the imagination that sustains the world. This is why appearances are deceiving. You see someone who seems powerful, wealthy, unshakable, and you place them on a pedestal. You see someone who seems broken, poor, defeated, and you pity them or dismiss them. Yet both are playing roles that can shift with astonishing speed. The moment imagination changes its scene, the stage can be redressed overnight. A pauper becomes a king becomes a pauper. Nothing is permanent, for permanence belongs only to the source of imagination itself. The mistake humanity makes is to believe the stage is all there is, to forget that the walls of the theater are painted canvas, that the people are in costume, that the whole structure is only meant to serve a drama of awakening. When you truly understand this, fear begins to dissolve. If life is a stage, then no scene can destroy you. A tragic moment may arrive, but it is still only part of the play. The loss of money, the betrayal of a friend, the sting of rejection, the shadow of sickness, these are costumes worn for a season. They are props placed upon the stage to serve the unfolding of awareness. They feel sharp in the moment because you are caught up in the performance. But once you see behind the curtain, you no longer tremble at what appears. You become like the one in the audience, who remembers that the whole story has been designed for meaning. Yet here is the greater revelation. You are not merely the audience. You are not even only the actor. You are the author as well. The lines you speak are not dictated by some external playwright who remains far away in the heavens. The lines come from within you, from the same divine imagination that spoke the world into existence. You act them out, believing at first that you are separate from the script. But in truth, the authoring voice and the acting voice are one. Every thought you think, every assumption you hold, every image you dwell upon in the secrecy of your mind is part of the author's pen. Writing the next scene, you may imagine that you are praying to someone outside of yourself, pleading for favor or waiting for answers. You may imagine that God is elsewhere, looking down upon you and judging whether to grant your request. But the reality is far more intimate and astonishing. The one to whom you pray and the one who answers are the same being. It is your own imagination clothed in the mask of separation. When you speak to God, you are speaking to yourself in your deepest identity. For you and the divine author are not two. The very voice that says, "I am," within you, is the same voice that said, "Let there be light." When you awaken to this unity, you stop living like a beggar on the stage. You cease waiting for the script to change by luck or chance. Instead, you assume the authority of the author. You do not beg for health, you assume the role of health. You do not plead for success, you enter into the state of one already successful. You do not chase love, you embody the feeling of being loved and cherished. And the lines of the play rearrange themselves to match that inner acceptance. The actor transforms the scene by realizing he was the writer all along. Consider a man who feels powerless in his career. He believes his employer dictates his life, that the economy decides his worth, that others hold the script of his future. He sees himself as a minor character in a large production. Yet the moment he recognizes that the author and actor are one, he shifts his inner assumption. He begins to walk in the state of authority, to imagine himself valuable, competent, recognized. Without forcing, without struggling, the outer stage begins to reflect the new lines of the script. Opportunities appear, conversations unfold, doors open. What seemed like an immovable storyline bends instantly because the author has rewritten from within. The same is true of every aspect of life. In relationships, you may think you are trapped in a role of loneliness, longing for someone to love you. You imagine you are a supporting character waiting for another actor to appear. Yet the moment you claim your union with the author, you write a new scene. You imagine companionship. You feel the warmth of being cherished. And soon the stage introduces the character to match the script you have silently rehearsed. In health, you may think you are bound by medical reports or family history. Yet when you awaken as author, you rehearse vitality, you accept wholeness, and the body responds as the stage that it is, reflecting the inner command. The unity of actor and author does not mean you will never again face challenge or difficulty. It means you will recognize every challenge as part of a scene you yourself have permitted, consciously or unconsciously. You will see that no enemy has power over you except the power you grant through assumption. You will walk through the stage knowing that even the harshest dialogue is part of a greater script, leading you into fuller awareness of who you are. When this realization sinks in, prayer itself takes on new meaning. Prayer is no longer begging or bargaining. Prayer becomes assumption. It becomes the silent acceptance that what you desire is already true, because the author has written it so. You live from the end, not toward it. You do not look at the current scene and panic. You remember that the script can be rewritten in an instant by changing your inner acceptance. The actor who knows he is also the author plays his role with confidence, with calm assurance, for he knows that every line serves the greater unveiling of the divine within. This is the mystery that religion has often hidden beneath layers of ritual and tradition. People are taught to look outward for answers, to believe in a distant God who may or may not intervene. But the great secret is that the intervention has always been within, for the author never abandoned the actor. They are one life, one imagination, one voice saying I am. When you claim this truth, the stage no longer intimidates you. The scenery may shift, storms may rage, but you stand unmoved, for you know the source of all change lies within the author who is yourself. You are living in a play, but you are not a powerless figure wandering through random scenes. You are the central character and the writer simultaneously. Every thought, every assumption, every inner dialogue is part of the script that becomes your visible reality. To awaken is to stop blaming the stage and to start authoring consciously. The actor who realizes he is the author walks the stage with authority, knowing that every scene, however it appears, is an expression of his own divine imagination. You may look at your life and wonder why certain people appear in your story, why some seem to oppose you, why situations of difficulty and disappointment arise again and again. It often feels unfair, as though you have been handed a role you did not ask for, as though some villain has entered uninvited and disturbed your peace. Yet the deeper truth is that every role has a purpose. Nothing and no one appears on the stage of your life without serving the greater drama of your awakening. The friend who supports you, the enemy who betrays you, the stranger who speaks a word that stirs your soul. Each one is part of the script that is shaping your consciousness. Without the so-called villain, there would be no conflict. Without conflict, there would be no growth. And without growth, there would be no revelation of the deeper power within you. The very scenes you resist are often the ones carrying the richest meaning. Imagine a play without tension, without struggle, without moments that challenge the hero. It would be flat, lifeless, forgettable. The reason stories grip us is because the hero must confront opposition, must rise above difficulty, must discover strength that was hidden until the challenge appeared. So it is with your own life. The rejection you felt, the loss you endured, the obstacles that blocked your way were not meaningless accidents. They were written into the play to press you into discovering that you are more than the role you thought you were. Even those who wound you are not enemies in the deepest sense. They are actors clothed in temporary roles, and their lines are written to awaken you. When someone offends you, they are pressing you to rise above the state of weakness into the state of dominion. When someone abandons you, they are pushing you to discover the unshakable presence within that never leaves. When someone takes from you, they are urging you to recognize that abundance does not come from outside, but from the inner well of imagination. In this way, even the villain becomes your servant, for his very opposition awakens you to the author you truly are. The cup of bitterness may taste sharp as it touches your lips, but it carries the medicine of transformation. Without the storm, you would never learn that you could command the wind. Without the night, you would never rejoice in the dawn. Without the weight, you would never know the strength of your own arm. The roles of difficulty are not there to destroy you, but to strip away the illusion of limitation. They remind you that you are not merely the role you are playing. You are the consciousness behind the role, and consciousness can never be harmed. It is important to understand this because the moment you recognize every role as purposeful, resentment loses its hold on you. You cease blaming others for your condition. You cease cursing circumstances as though they were random punishments. Instead, you begin to ask, what is this scene revealing about my assumptions? What is this character teaching me about my imagination? What state am I being invited to occupy? This attitude transforms the way you meet life. Instead of being crushed by difficulty, you become curious, alert, awake, knowing that each moment is designed to point you back to your true authorship. Yet while every role has a purpose, the script itself is not rigid. Life is not a predetermined tragedy where every line is fixed from the beginning, with no possibility of change. The mystery is that the script bends to the state you occupy. You step into roles not by fate but by assumption. When you assume yourself to be weak, you take the role of the victim and the scenes of life reflect that state. When you assume yourself to be prosperous, you enter into the role of abundance and the characters and events around you respond accordingly. When you assume yourself unloved, the play introduces scenes of loneliness and rejection. When you assume yourself cherished and whole, the stage arranges itself to match that inner conviction. This is why two people can live in the same city, work in the same building, even share the same family, and yet their lives unfold in entirely different ways. One walks in a state of constant struggle, the other in a state of ease. One meets obstacle after obstacle, the other seems to glide from opportunity to opportunity. It is not because one is more favored by God than the other, nor because chance has rolled its dice differently. It is because each has assumed a different state, and the play of life is adjusting itself to fit the assumption. The script is rewritten the moment you shift your inner stance. You may believe you are trapped in a role you despise, that the lines of poverty, rejection, failure, or sickness have already been carved into stone. But the truth is that imagination is fluid, and states can be changed as easily as an actor changes costume. You can step out of one role and into another simply by assuming it inwardly as true. The outer stage must follow, because the world is only the reflection of your inner acceptance. Think of an actor preparing for a play. He puts on the costume of a beggar and immediately begins to walk with a limp, to speak in a tone of need, to carry himself as one who has nothing. The stage is dressed to match his role, and the audience sees him as poor. Yet the next moment he leaves the stage, puts on the costume of a king, and when he steps out again, the entire set has changed to reflect royalty. The same man, but a different role, and the play adjusts accordingly. So it is with you. You may be wearing the costume of lack today, but the moment you assume the role of wealth, the stage begins to shift. The scenery of your life changes because you have changed your state. This is why assumption is the secret key. You cannot wait for the outer play to shift before you believe. You must first assume the state inwardly, and the play will rearrange itself to reflect that inner belief. If you wait for the world to give you evidence, you will be waiting forever, for the world only mirrors what you already hold within. The script bends not to your wishes but to your assumptions. Change the assumption, and the dialogue of life will follow suit. Do not think this means you must struggle or force things to happen. The actor does not demand the stage crew to move the scenery. He simply changes costume and the scenery follows. Likewise, you do not need to push against circumstances with effort. You simply assume the state of the one you desire to be, and the outer world, being but the shadow of imagination, adjusts itself without strain. This understanding places immense responsibility in your hands, for you can no longer blame others or circumstances for your condition. You realize that every role you find yourself in was entered by assumption, conscious or unconscious. But at the same time, this realization is the greatest liberation, for if you assumed yourself into one role, you can assume yourself out of it into another. Nothing binds you but your own belief, and nothing frees you but your own assumption. Every role is purposeful, for it teaches you something about who you are, but no role is permanent. The villain awakens you, the challenge strengthens you, the rejection reveals your inner source, but the moment you have learned what you must, you can step into a new state and the play will introduce a new scene. Life is a living drama, not a frozen script. The author in you is always writing, always adjusting, always free to imagine a new chapter. Before any actor steps upon the stage before the audience, he first retreats into the rehearsal room. It is there in private, away from the gaze of others, that he practices his lines, learns his movements, feels out the character he is about to embody. It is in this secret place, invisible to the crowd, that the performance is truly born. What is rehearsed in silence will one day be revealed beneath the lights. Life itself operates no differently. Your imagination is the rehearsal room where you practice for the play of tomorrow. It is there in the quiet chambers of your mind that future scenes are prepared. What you persistently rehearse inwardly with feeling, clothed in the tones of reality, must eventually step out onto the stage of your outer world. This is why imagination is not idle daydreaming. It is the workshop of destiny. Every image you dwell upon, every conversation you replay, every fantasy you indulge, or every fear you brood over, is a rehearsal. The mind cannot remain neutral. It is always writing, always preparing, always casting the next act of your life. When you imagine failure, though only in thought, you are rehearsing a role, and the play must sooner or later provide the scenery to match. When you imagine success, even if only in quiet reflection, you are rehearsing a different role, and the stage must adjust to reflect it. Consider the child who spends hours pretending to be a doctor, caring for imaginary patients, scribbling notes, wearing a stethoscope made of string. To the casual observer it looks like play, but in truth the child is rehearsing an identity, shaping the inner feeling of what it means to serve in that way. Years later the world often arranges itself to match the rehearsal. The child who imagined with intensity grows into the adult who lives the role. This is not chance, but law. What you imagine with conviction is rehearsal for what must come forth. The tragedy is that most people rehearse unconsciously. They allow worry to dominate the rehearsal room. They play out arguments that have not yet happened. They see themselves defeated. They picture sickness advancing. They imagine bills piling up. And they do it with the full conviction of emotion. Then when life presents them with a stage set of difficulty, they say fate has been cruel, never realizing that they themselves rehearsed the very scenes they now dread. The rehearsal chamber was misused, and the performance is only its natural outpicturing. To awaken is to take conscious control of the rehearsal. Instead of letting fear dictate the practice, you choose deliberately what role you will rehearse. You imagine yourself already possessing what you desire. You picture yourself walking in health, not someday, but now. You feel the joy of success, not as hope, but as present reality. You hear the words of love spoken to you, not in the future, but in this moment. You repeat these inner acts until they take on the tones of reality, until they feel as vivid as a memory. At that point the rehearsal is complete, and the outer play must present the scene. Do not despise this inner work. The world may call it fantasy, but it is the very substance of creation. The unseen rehearsal is always the cause, and the seen performance is always the effect. To neglect the rehearsal room is to surrender your lines to the imagination of others. To master it is to live as the conscious dramatist of your destiny. The actor who rehearses well never fears the performance, for he knows he has prepared the lines. Likewise, the one who has rehearsed his future in imagination with faith does not tremble when tomorrow arrives, for he knows the scene is already secured. The curtain rises and falls not by your casual wishes, but by your faith. You may hope, you may long, you may even speak words of desire, but when the curtain lifts on tomorrow, it will not reveal what you merely wished for. It will reveal what you inwardly accepted as true. Faith is not a weak hoping that something may happen if luck smiles upon you. Faith is the inner conviction, the steady acceptance, that what you have rehearsed is already real in the unseen. Faith is the confidence that the script is settled because you have assumed the role. Understand that faith is not directed to an external power somewhere distant. Faith is the recognition that the author of the play and the actor on the stage are one and the same. You are not pleading with the director behind the scenes to alter the lines for you. You are recognizing that your assumption is the writing of the script itself. To accept with faith that your desire is already fulfilled is to place it firmly in the rehearsal chamber of imagination, and the outer stage must follow without fail. When you walk into a theater, you never doubt that the curtain will rise. You never sit in the seat fearing that the actors will forget their lines, or the stage will fail to appear. You trust the process. That trust is faith. In the same way, when you walk in life, your faith must rest in the unseen rehearsal of your imagination. What you have accepted inwardly with conviction will appear outwardly, just as surely as the curtain will rise when the show begins. If you doubt, you rehearse failure, and the curtain rises on a tragedy. If you believe, you rehearse triumph, and the curtain rises on a victory. This explains why so many prayers seem unanswered. They are spoken with lips but denied with imagination. A person may cry for healing, but inwardly rehearse the picture of worsening illness. They may plead for abundance, but inwardly rehearse lack. They may speak words of love, but inwardly rehearse loneliness. The curtain rises not on their words, but on their faith, not on their begging, but on their inner acceptance. Life does not respond to the noise of hope, but to the quiet authority of faith. Once this is understood, prayer takes on new depth. Prayer is not asking, but rehearsing. It is assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it becomes natural. It is practicing in the secret place until the conviction is so strong that you cannot imagine otherwise. That conviction is faith, and faith is the power that raises the curtain on your desired scene. You no longer wait in anxiety to see if God will answer, for you know the answer is already written in the rehearsal. To live this way is to shift from fear to authority. You no longer tremble at circumstances, for you understand that they are only the reflection of rehearsals already complete. If you dislike the current scene, you do not curse the actors or the set. You return to the rehearsal room of imagination. You change the lines. You assume a new role. You accept it with faith, and then you wait calmly for the curtain to rise again. Life must obey, for it has no power to resist the conviction of imagination held in faith. The rehearsal and the faith together form the secret of creation. One without the other is incomplete. To rehearse without faith is empty fantasy, drifting images with no power to appear. To claim faith without rehearsal is hollow, for faith must be clothed in an image and feeling to have form. But when you rehearse deliberately with the conviction that it is already done, when you clothe faith with imagination and imagination with faith, then the play of life must unfold in exact accordance with your inner work. When pain enters your life, it feels as if the play has turned against you, as if the script has been corrupted and all that is left is sorrow. But pain is only another scene. It is not permanent. It is not final. It is not who you are. In the same way that an actor can weep bitterly on stage and then step off into laughter, you too must learn that sorrow is part of the role, not the truth of your being. Pain belongs to the drama of life, but the essence of you remains untouched. The scenes of joy and the scenes of grief are equally purposeful, equally written into the play to serve your awakening. The mistake most people make is to confuse the scene with their identity. When the script brings in sickness, they say I am sick. When the script brings in poverty, they say I am poor. When the script brings in loneliness, they say I am unloved. Yet none of these are true of the real self. They are costumes to be worn for a time and then laid aside. You are not the sorrow you feel. You are the awareness experiencing sorrow. You are not the laughter that lifts you. You are the presence in which laughter happens. Pain and joy are the changing weather of the stage, but you are the sky above it, vast and unaltered. It is essential to understand this so that you are not destroyed by the shifting moods of life. Imagine an actor who forgets he is in a play and believes the sorrow of his character is his own eternal condition. He would despair. But once he remembers it is a role, he plays it with passion yet does not lose himself in it. So you too must learn to remember. If you are passing through a season of grief, do not curse it as if it were a punishment. Recognize it as a scene, necessary for the drama, but not final. If you are in a season of joy, savor it deeply, but do not cling to it, for it too will pass when the next act begins. Both are temporary movements in the eternal play. Pain often serves a deeper purpose than joy, for it presses you to awaken. Joy can make you sleep, but pain makes you ask why. Pain makes you question the stage. It makes you search for meaning beyond the visible. And in that searching you discover the author within. Without sorrow many would never look beyond appearances. Without loss many would never awaken to the abundance within. Without sickness many would never realize the body itself is an image of imagination. Pain has a way of shaking you from the dream of limitation and reminding you of your true nature. Yet do not fear pain or seek it. You need not invite suffering. It will come as the play requires, but it will also pass. What you must do is meet it with understanding. Say to yourself, this too is a scene. It is not my destruction. It is part of my awakening. And when joy returns, say also, this too is a scene, beautiful but temporary. In this way you become master of the stage, not tossed endlessly between laughter and tears but grounded in the awareness that both belong to the drama and neither defines the eternal self. The grand mystery is that all these shifting scenes are leading to one final revelation. Every role you play, every joy and every sorrow, every triumph and every failure, is designed to bring you to the moment when you awaken as the author of the whole play. At the final curtain you will see that the drama was never against you. It was never meaningless. It was never random. It was the divine imagination dreaming itself as you. And every act was written with purpose to reveal this truth. You may look back at the villain who opposed you and realize he was your own imagination, dressed as another. You may remember the betrayals and see they were written so you would find faith in yourself. You may recall the long nights of despair and understand they were part of the script that forced you to seek the eternal light. Even your moments of joy, your victories and celebrations, were not accidents but carefully woven into the fabric of the drama to keep you moving toward recognition. At the final unveiling, you will know that you were never a victim of life, but its dramatist all along. The play will end for each of us, as all plays must. The curtain will fall on the stage of this world, and you will awaken from the dream to discover you were not simply a character, passing through fleeting roles, but the imagination of God experiencing itself. You will know that the entire cast of characters was you in disguise, that the scenery was painted by your own mind, that the dialogue was whispered from your own depths. You will realize that the beloved and the enemy were masks worn by the same eternal being, and that being was yourself. This realization is the grand finale of life. It is the moment of union with the author, the instant of awakening, when the actor throws off the costume and recognizes his true identity. All the pain you endured, all the joy you celebrated, all the questions you wrestled with, resolve into this one truth. You are the author dreaming the play. You are the actor living it. You are the audience watching it. And beyond all three, you are the eternal imagination of God. When this recognition dawns upon you, fear vanishes. For what can you fear once you know you are the writer of the script? Resentment dissolves, for who is there to resent once you see that all were parts of yourself? Grief fades, for you understand that no one is truly lost. They were simply characters removed from one act to reappear in another. Joy deepens, for you no longer cling to moments, but savor them as expressions of your own imagination. Every scene has been necessary to bring you here. Every line spoken, every tear shed, every laugh shared, all of it was moving you toward the unveiling of your true identity. The play is divine, and though its costumes change and its acts shift, its end is certain. You will awaken and know yourself as the dreamer of the dream, the creator of the drama, the God of your own universe. Until then, play your role fully, embrace both the pain and the joy, knowing they are only scenes guiding you to the final revelation of who you truly are.